to the third session of chapter number 8, controlling. In the previous class sessions, we have discussed about the meaning of controlling, importance and limitations of controlling, as well as the controlling process. Today in this session, we will be discussing about techniques of managerial control. Now, when the activities are being performed, I told you that they will be measured, compared, and the corrective actions will be taken if there is any deviation. Now, how do you do the controlling? Now, how are you going to measure that actual performance? It is through these techniques. Okay? So, these are the techniques of managerial control that you are seeing on the board. The techniques of managerial control are classified into two broad categories, that is traditional and modern. Okay? Traditional and modern techniques. The traditional techniques are again classified into personal observation, statistical reports, break-even analysis, budgetary control. Similarly, the modern techniques are as follows: returns on investments, ratio analysis, responsibility accounting, management audit, PERT, that is PERT, and CPM. Now, what is traditional technique? The techniques which have been used for a long period of time by the organizations are called as traditional techniques. These techniques have been used for a longer period of time. As the new techniques were introduced, these were considered as obsolete, but still there are organizations which are following these traditional techniques. Now, the first one, we will be discussing about the first one, that is the personal observation is the most traditional method of controlling. Now, here the manager or the supervisor in the organization will be continuously observing the workers or the subordinates who are working under them. This will enable this manager to collect the first hand information about the performance of the work of the employees. Now, when the manager will be observing the employees, he will be able to get to know how the people are working under him. So, through that observation, he will be able to find out the performance of the employees. Now, this is a way of measuring the performance of the employees. Now, when the manager is observing the employees, even the employees will be aware of that. Now, this awareness about they being observed by the managers will be creating a psychological pressure on their minds. Okay? The employees will be feeling that they are being observed, and as a result of which they will be performing the work more better. Now, this personal observation actually is a time consuming process. The manager has to continuously observe the employees who are working under him. So, it becomes a time consuming process. There will be lots of employees who are working under a manager, and observing each and every employee about his work will take more time. And along with that, this particular type of traditional technique of controlling cannot be applicable to all the types of jobs in an organization. Okay? Now, the second type is statistical reports. Now, statistical reports is an overall analysis of the data available with the manager. Now, this data will be presented in the form of ratios, percentages, averages, correlation data, etc. This particular data, which is shown through your ratios, percentages and all, will be providing information about the performance of the organization. Now, these informations obtained through statistical tools can be presented to the manager through the charts, diagrams, graphs, etc. The manager will be using these charts, graphs, diagrams and all to make a comparison of the performance of the present year with the previous years. So, through that he will be able to understand the deviations, and if required he will also take corrective actions. So, thereby controlling can be done. In the third case, break-even analysis. This is the third technique used in the controlling activity. Break-even analysis is a study of relationship between costs, volume and profits. Now, when we are speaking about costs, we are speaking about both fixed costs and variable costs. Say if you are taking a case of a manufacturing organization, okay, they are producing a certain number of units of product in a year. Now, to produce those products, they will be incurring both fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed cost will not be changing, but variable cost will be changing along with the number of units produced. When the number of products produced is 0, the variable cost will be 0. But when the number increases to 25 units, even the variable cost increases. But when it goes to 50 units, it even increases more. So, there goes like that, the variable cost will be going on increasing. Now, the total of variable cost and fixed cost is the total cost. What happens? This break-even analysis will try to find out the break-even point, okay, the break-even point where an organization will not be having neither profit nor loss. Okay. It will be trying to find out a point where you will be having no profit, no loss situation. This is done to estimate the profits that can be earned at different levels of activities. See, if you see this particular diagram, here if you are manufacturing 25 units, your revenues are less than your cost. This is the cost, and this line which shows you the total revenue. This is lesser than the cost incurred by you. So, if you are manufacturing 25 units at this cost, that will be bringing in loss for you. So, if you have to reach a stage where you have to earn the profits, then you should manufacture more than 50 units. If you see the break-even point here, this break-even point tells you that this is where the total revenue and total cost intersect. Okay, the total revenue and the total cost will be intersecting. That means this is the break-even point. This is the situation at which the organization will be having a situation of no profit and no loss. Okay. Once it starts manufacturing more than 50 units, it starts earning profits. So, the break-even analysis tries to understand when the organization will be able to make the profits and how much profits can it make at different levels. If at 50 there is no profit, but at 75 number of units it is making good profits here. Now, the break-even analysis helps the managers to estimate these profits at different levels of management or different levels of activities. Now, you can find out this break even point using a formula. Break even point is equal to fixed cost divided by break even point is equal to fixed cost divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Now, break even analysis, once you understand what is the break even point, it will help the firm to also keep a check on the variable cost per unit, because this variable cost per unit will be changing along with the number of units manufactured in the organization. The fixed cost will not be changing, but the variable cost will be continuously changing. So, it will be helping the manager in two ways. One, to find out the profits at different levels of production, and secondly, to control the variable costs in the manufacturing of the product. So, we will be going into the next level of technique, that is next fourth one, that is budgetary control. Students, you might have read about budget when you are studying about types of plans. A budget is one type of plan. And what is a budget? It is a statement of expected results expressed in numerical terms. You are going to make a statement, prepare a statement which will be telling you about what is going to be done in the future, and this will be expressed in the numerical terms. If you take the case of Central Union budget, they are giving you a idea about what is going to be done in the coming financial year. Okay. So, budgetary control uses budgets to control the activities in the organization. Now, all the operations according to the budget are planned in advance. All the operations are planned in advance according to the budgets. Now, these budgets can be of various types. It can be a sales budget, it can be a production budget, it can be a research and development budget. Okay. Now, depending upon the activities that are performed in the organization, the budgets will be created. Now, all the performances that will be happening in the organization will be compared with the budgets which you have set at the beginning. Now, if the employees or the organization is able to achieve the or reach the budgets, that means the performance is going as per the plans. In case there is any change or in case there is any deviations, the necessary corrective actions will be taken by the management in the organization. Advantages of budgetary control. The budgets that we prepare helps us to control the activities in the organization. So, when this is being done, you will be able to come across certain advantages. The first thing being focus on specific and time bound projects. Generally what happens when you are preparing the budgets, you will be setting a specific time to complete a particular task. So, as a result of that, you will be the person who is given the job of doing a particular task, he will be focusing on completing those projects on time. The second advantage of budgetary control is that it is a source of motivation for employees. The employees, I told you earlier in the earlier sessions that the employees will be aware about what are the standards set for their activities or for their performance. So, even a budget is a sort of standard for them. So, they will be aware about the budgets that is set for the particular year. So, they will be taking it as a motivational source, a knowledge about what their performance must be. So, they will do that particular task what is mentioned in their budget. So, it is a source of motivation. It helps some employees to understand how their work has to be done or what are the targets that they have to reach in the organization. Then the third point is about optimum utilization of resources. Now, when the budget is being prepared, each and every department in the organization is given a certain budget. They are given a particular target, and all the resources that are available in the organization will be allocated to these departments according to the budgets in the budgets of the organization. So, there will be optimum utilization of resources in the organization. Then the fourth point of advantage is it helps in achieving the coordination between the employees. Now, what happens, any budget that is given for a particular department, whether it is a sales department or a production department, each of the department will be given a budget. Now, if the sales department has a sales budget and it has to achieve that budget, now that has to be done in accordance with the activities of the production department. The people who are working in the sales department has to coordinate with the production department, because if the production department people do not do the production, the sales department people will not be able to do the sales. Say if you take the case of a manufacturing organization where the goods are being manufactured, in the production department will be producing the goods and these goods will be sold by the sales department. And sometimes what happens, the sales department will be giving in a order for the demand that is received by it. So, what it will do, it will be coordinating, it will talk, it will discuss with the matter with, it will discuss the matter with the production department and do the activities accordingly. So, there will be coordination amongst the employees of the different departments in the organization. Fifth advantage of budgetary control is management by exception. In your earlier session, I told you that the organizations will be considering only the significant deviations that are happening in the organization. This is because the organization will not be able to control everything that is happening in the organization. So, they make sure that they are only giving attention to significant deviations. Now, that is nothing but management by exception. You will be giving attention to those deviations which are not normal in the organization. For example, if the plans say that 2% deviation is normal and it can be, it is in an acceptable range, then you can just go on with your work. But if you find a 5% deviation in the cost that is incurring in your organization, in that case you need to give importance to it and take some corrective actions to see that cost is reduced in future. Students, let us move on to the modern techniques of managerial control. The modern techniques of managerial control includes returns on investments, ratio analysis, responsibility center, management audit, management information system and PERT and CPM. Now, the first one, returns on investments. Now, the returns of investments tells you about the effectiveness of the capital invested in the business organization. In fact, it tells you about the reasonable amount of returns that is earned by the organization. Now, so it is a yardstick used for measuring whether or not invested capital has been used effectively for getting reasonable amount of return. So, to understand whether the capital invested in the business has been effectively used or not to receive returns on investments, this particular technique is used. Now, this returns on investments can be calculated using the formula net income divided by sales multiplied by sales divided by total investments. Total investments. Now, this net income can be the income after tax or before tax, the sales which is done in that particular year, financial year, and total investments includes both working capital as well as fixed capital invested in the business. Now, if you have to increase your returns on investments, either you should be increasing your sales, okay, in proportionate to the investments made by you in the organization, or you also have another option of reducing the total investments made in the organization without any changes in the sales volume. You will keep the sales volume the same and you will make the changes in the investments. You will decrease the investments made in the organization. By doing that, you will be able to increase the returns on investments. Now, this is done to measure the performance of the different departments. Then we have ratio analysis. Okay, ratio analysis. Now, ratio analysis is a tool used to evaluate and analyze the financial statements of the organization. I guess you people very well know the financial statements, that is statement of profit and loss account and balance sheet. Now, using these two statements, the ratio analysis will be done. The ratio analysis are done generally using certain formulas, or the ratio analysis is done using certain ratios. Okay. Now, what are those ratios? The ratios are of 4 types: liquidity ratio, solvency ratio, profitability ratio, as well as turnover ratios. The liquidity ratios will be telling you about the short-term solvency of the business organization. Now, these ratios are used to measure the ability of the organization to pay back the amount due to the stakeholders. The stakeholders can be the creditors or the suppliers or the organizations which has given short-term loans. Okay. Now, this ratio will be able to tell you about the ability of the organization to pay the amount which are due to the stakeholders. Now, the solvency ratios, it tells you about the long-term solvency of your organization. Almost all the organizations will be having a mix of debts. They will be having short-term loans, also the long-term loans. Now, when it comes to the case of short-term loans, we try to find it out whether you are able to pay the short-term loans through liquidity ratios. Now, when it comes to the long-term ratios, we try to measure the ability of the organization using the solvency ratios. In other words, these ratios helps to measure the ability of the organization to pay back the long-term debts. Okay. Then the profitability ratios. The profitability ratios tells you about the profitability of the organization. Now, these ratios will be actually measuring the relationship between the profit and the sales which is happening in the organization. Now, then comes the turnover ratios. The turnover ratios will be telling you about the how effectively the resources of the organizations are being used. Okay. So, in other words, it will tell you about the effectiveness of the utilization of the resource in the organization. Now, when in case the turnover is high, that means the resources of the organizations are being used in a best way. Now, liquidity, some of the examples of liquidity ratios or solvency, profitability and turnover ratios. Liquidity ratios include current ratio, quick ratio. Solvency ratios include debt equity ratios, proprietary ratios, which helps you to find out the long term solvency. Then profitability ratios, it tells you about the position of your business, profitability position of your business. So, we use gross profit ratio, net profit ratio and all in this particular ratio. In the case of turnover ratio, we use the ratios such as stock turnover ratio, creditors turnover ratio, debtors turnover ratio. So, moving on to the next type of controlling, that is responsibility center. Now, the responsibility center, in the case of the organizations, it will be divided into various different departments, divisions and sections. Now, each of these departments, sections, divisions will be classified as a responsibility center, and head of these departments will be responsible for the activities that is being done in that particular department, division or section. So, these responsibility centers can be of 4 types. It can be of 4 types: cost center, revenue center, profit center and investment center. The person who is in charge of the cost center, he will be responsible for the costs incurred in his center. So, when I say center, it is about the departments. Okay. Now, for example, if you take the case of the production department, the head of that production department will be responsible for the cost incurred in the production department. There may be different types of costs. He will be incurring variable costs, he may be incurring fixed costs, that is, he may be incurring expenditures for the sake of purchasing the raw materials. So, these all costs must be taken care of by the head of the production department. Then comes the revenue center. In the case of revenue center, the head of the department is responsible for generating the revenues. So, if you take the case of an organization, the marketing department, okay, a marketing department of an organization, there what happens, he has to see that the income of the organization is being increased. For that, he has to do all the necessary things to increase the sales of the organization. Then comes the profit center. In the case of profit center, the manager will be responsible for the revenues as well as the costs. Okay. And then investment center, here the manager is not only responsible for the profits, but also for the investments that is made in that particular center. When you take the case of an organization, take a case of a small department within an organization. Each department will be allotted certain assets. Now, it is the responsibility of the manager to see that these assets are being used efficiently and effectively. So, he will be responsible not only for the profits, but also for the investments that are made in the center. Then comes the next modern technique, that is management audit. Now, this is about evaluation of the functioning, performance and effectiveness of the management of an organization. Until now, we were all discussing about the activities that are going to be performed. Now, here in this case, we are going to control even the management of the organization. We try to appraise the overall performance of the management of the organization. So, you try to understand the efficiency and effectiveness of the management in the organization, and you also use this technique to improve the performance of the management in future. And when I say management, you will be performing various functions: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. Now, you also have to see that all these functions are being performed properly, okay, by the managerial cadre in the organization. So, this management audit is done for that particular reason. Now, when this is done, you will be coming across certain advantages. The first advantage of management audit is that it will be helping you to locate the deficiency in the performance of the activities in the organization. So, when I say activities, it is about the functions of the organization. If it tries to analyze whether all the functions are being performed properly or not, whether the planning is happening properly, whether all the organizing has been done properly, is the controlling being done properly, everything will be verified and analyzed, and through that they try to find out the deficiencies. And then it also helps to improve the control in the organization. It tries to continuously monitor the performances in the organization, and thereby control over the organization can be achieved. Then coordination, the management audit will help in enhancing the coordination amongst the departments, and similarly it also helps in the updation of the managerial policies and strategies. That is, when the deficiencies are located, they will be giving certain suggestions about how the things have to be done. So, when such information is received, the existing policies and strategies will be updated accordingly. Then we will be coming across management information system. Management information system. Now, this is a computer based information system that provides information to the managers for the sake of making decisions. Now, they will be using the computers, and they generally provide up to date, accurate and timely information to the managers. Now, whatever data is available through this management information system, that is because of proper processing of the data. Now, the benefit of having management information system within your organization is that you will be able to collect, manage and disseminate the information at different levels and departments of the organization. You will be able to collect the information, similarly manage that information, and also distribute that information to the people who are working at the different levels as well as the departments of the organization. Then it also supports in the case of planning and decision making. So, because it will be providing information to the management, it will be these informations will be used in the preparation of the plans for the organizations. So, it will also help in the decision making process of the organization. Further, it also will be able to improve the quality of the information which the manager uses. You will be able to get a quality information. You can depend upon the information that is available through the management information systems. Now, because you are using the computers for the sake of controlling the things, you will be it is considered as a cost effective method also. Okay? Now, this will be reducing the burden on the managers as they use only relevant information provided to them. Then comes the last one, PERT and CPM. PERT and CPM are one of the modern managerial control techniques. The full form of these particular ones are Program Evaluation and Review Technique, okay, PERT. Full form of PERT is Program Evaluation and Review Technique. Then full form of CPM is Critical Path Method. What happens here is you will be using these techniques only in the case of planning, scheduling and implementing time bound projects. The projects which are bound by time, only in such cases you will be using these techniques PERT and CPM. These techniques will be dealing with the time scheduling of the projects and also resource allocation of the resources in the organization. The steps involved in using the PERT, okay, is or CPM also, okay, CPM also can be included in the steps there. What happens here is you will be identifying all the activities that is to be done under a project. Imagine you are going to build a ship, okay. So, for that building of ship you need to perform various activities and you have to identify these activities, okay, and then you have to arrange them in a logical sequence. Once you finish that, a network diagram has to be prepared mentioning about the sequence of the activities along with the starting point and the ending point, okay. Now, once the diagram is done, the time estimates are prepared. What is the time required for completion of that particular project? You will be trying to find them out. Now, if you are using PERT technique, you will be trying to find out 3 times, okay. That is actually you will be preparing to find out 3 time estimates. One is optimistic time estimate, another one is pessimistic time estimate and the last one is most likely time. Now, what is optimistic time estimate? That is the short time required, the shortest time required to complete the project. Optimistic is the shortest time required for the completion of the project. Pessimistic is the longest time required for the completion of the project. And the third time estimate, that is most likely time, okay. So, you have to find out 3 estimates, okay, in the case of PERT, okay. If you are using the PERT, you have to find out those 3 estimates, but if you are using CPM, you will have to find out only one time estimate. What happens here is, in the case of PERT, you will not know what is the time required for the completion of the project. That is why you prepare 3 time estimates. But in the case of CPM, you will be knowing, you will be using the CPM method when you know what is the time required to complete a project, okay. So, CPM will be used in such projects where only one time estimate is to be prepared. Now, once you finished estimating the time estimates under PERT and CPM, you will get to know what is the longest path in the network. This longest path will be representing the sequence of those activities which are important for the timely completion of the project. You are building a ship and you need a spare part, and producing that spare part takes more time. You have to see that that particular spare part is being produced on time. Now, if you are able to produce that spare part on time, you will be able to complete the project of shipbuilding in the given time. If the production of that particular spare part is delayed, then the project of the shipbuilding also will be delayed. So, in case there is any delay in the manufacturing of that particular spare part, you have to make sure that that particular spare part is being produced on time. There is no chance for delay in the manufacturing of that particular spare part. So, if required, you can plan modify the plans so that the project can be completed on time. So, these PERT and CPM are generally used in the case of your shipbuilding, aircraft manufacturing or your construction projects. Students, with this we come to the conclusion of the techniques of managerial control. This chapter contains the topics, meaning of controlling, okay, and then importance and limitations of controlling. You also studied about the relationship between planning and controlling, the controlling process and the techniques of controlling. Now, with this, I would also like to say this chapter carries questions on 1 mark, 2 marks, 4 marks and a practical oriented question. Thank you for listening to me.